We're taking a look at Unto the End, a cinematic and honestly hard as balls platformer from the first-time developer and husband and wife duo at 2 Ton Studios. It's available on PC via Steam and GOG, also Google Stadia, and as of yesterday, it's available on all consoles. Unto the End follows the story of a father on his long journey home to his family and is filled with wonderful 2D artwork, which I would even compare to other recent hits such as Roki. The story is rather vague, and I'll get to that in a bit, but the main focus of the game is the combat, which is advertised as adaptive to the way you play. Does this indie game fight its way into our hearts, or does it simply stab us in the back one too many times? Let's get to my review to find out. Hey guys, it's Cody with Indie Game Pulse, where we bring you the hottest indie games with the coolest memes. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can be sure not to miss another indie game review or countdown. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get to the review. As I mentioned before, Unto the End is the debut release for the husband and wife duo at 2 Ton Studios. They spent over 4 years working on this title alone, and the attention to detail in the wonderfully crafted art and scenery is clearly a result of that time. Following our main character, we'll call him Father, on his journey home to his family, you travel through snowy mountains and dark and dank caves filled with mysterious runes and creatures. Along your journey, you'll stop every once in a while at a fire to heal up, craft additional supplies based on your resources that you found, and maybe even take a little time to dream of home. You also have the option to freshen up on your combat skills by sword fighting with your wife. No, that's not a euphemism, and yes, she's easy.
Yeah, boy.
Much easier than the trolls that you'll face later on, in fact, making you want to bang your head against a wall. Throughout your journey, you'll interact with several different types of enemies and characters, although sometimes they are difficult to differentiate between just based on the more simple graphical style of the game. Combat is not always the answer when you meet these folks, although it can be if that's how you prefer to play. In certain situations, you are able to offer an item out of your inventory and see how the other party responds, often granting you a rare item that you wouldn't be able to find elsewhere. I found this to be a fun and interesting addition to the typical hack-and-slash adventure genre, and generally enjoyed my time trading with the local folks, even if I was afraid the whole time of offering the wrong thing and then being torn limb from limb. But it made me feel good to give to someone in their time of need, even though I was on a treacherous journey myself. However, the items I received in return were often too vague in their description to truly do anything more than tickle at my curiosity. I believe this was a stylistic choice, as many aspects of the game seem to need some experimentation to figure out, but for me, I just got to the point where I would offer every creature each item because I had no idea what he wanted, and then 9 times out of 10, he would kill me anyway. There was almost no way to tell which items went with which characters because the characters are never named anywhere, and each item specifically goes to one type of enemy or character. Let's dive a little deeper into how the game forces you to experiment on your journey. The combat, advertised as adaptive to the way you play, should instead be advertised as Dark Souls difficulty, but your controls lag by a second and you can't hit the same way twice. Yeah, quite simply, it's broken. And that's hard to say when the game is as beautiful as it is, and I know it was a labor of love from the developer, but most fights come down to sheer luck at the end of it. When the game says the combat is adaptive, it means that you can't hit each enemy the same way twice. Want to use your shoulder bash to knock your opponent off balance? Sounds good, right? Except that you can't do it more than once. Your opponent will simply spin away in a fancy pirouette. Maybe kicking some snow in his eyes will do the trick. Well, he puts on his magical ski goggles after the first one, so don't even try it again. There's only so many ways to hit an enemy, and when the more difficult enemies take 5 or even 6 hits to defeat, it gets very cumbersome trying to remember every single combination. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how slow and janky the controls are. For a combat game that's focused on reading and reacting to your opponents with a lot of blocking and parrying, every reaction just feels sluggish. Sometimes I would get in a button-mashing frenzy to roll away, only to have my character do it twice, and then be so tired from rolling twice that he needed to take a break, during which I'd get smacked in the back of the head. And if you want to seize an opportunity to block and quickly parry, good luck, because your character obviously wears molasses for deodorant and can barely even move. And some enemies just have unblockable attacks, which again you can roll away from, but the enemy will still run you down before you can even stand up and fight. There are also times when an enemy will swing a haymaker that you can roll past. That's a success, right? You can stab him in the back. Sure, if your character wasn't slipping and stumbling around like a drunken idiot. Every time he rolls, he needs to take a breather, meaning you never have time to stand up and surprise your enemy. Every opportunity to attack an opening feels squandered, either by the character's sluggishness or the lack of response in the controls. The reason this reactive type of combat works in Dark Souls and the like is that the player always feels like they can do better, that they can learn the combat mechanics and their enemies' tendencies. But Unto the End's combat system and sluggishness simply leaves you feeling hopeless and in need of a good dose of luck. I would like to see the game updated with more responsive, more springy controls that let me feel like I have a fighting chance against these quicker enemies. Speaking of slow, let's talk about the general pace of the game. I fully appreciate games which give you ample time to take in the beautiful scenery which they've created and which Unto the End has in loads, but at times it also feels like a walking simulator, with long stretches lulling you to sleep until a rock drops in front of you and breaks your foot, causing you to relive the last minute of walking all over again.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
The dynamic landscape doesn't serve any purpose other than to kill you out of nowhere, outside of a few exceptions. Even then, it's questionable why that needed to be included, other than to simply test your reflexes. This is certainly not a precision platformer, and with the controls, I thank them for that decision, but dropping rocks from off-screen that can kill you, and sometimes even return you to a very difficult boss fight, is just annoying and feels like a kick in the nuts at the end of a hard-earned victory. The long walks can be shortened just by adding faster movement to your character, and the falling rocks of death for no reason just really need to go. Now, with all that said, the game is not all bad, and there is an alternate assist mode in the difficulty selection. If you play Unto the End, I strongly advise you to choose this option, because there are good things to see in Unto the End. The scenery, as I already mentioned, is wonderful. You can almost feel the bone-chilling wind sweeping through your hair. The variation of enemies is also fun and interesting. You never know what you're going to run into next. And the feeling of hope instilled by your character's momentary fireside meditations is something I personally love to see in a game. Stay for as long as you like and dream of your wife and child, but don't forget the path still lies ahead, dark and full of danger. So the question is, should you play Unto the End? At this point, I can't recommend it. My honest opinion is that, as beautiful of a game as it is to look at, it's equally dreadful to play in its current state. The combat is slow, and the controls unresponsive, and those both need some work and balancing. And the pace of the game in general could really be sped up a bit as well. If the developer addresses those issues, then I think this would be a fun, yet still challenging game. Thank you so much for watching my review of Unto the End. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe so you can be notified when I publish my next indie game review, and let me know in the comments what you think of Unto the End, whether you've played it or have been thinking about buying it. I'd love to hear from all of you out there. Thank you to my 60 subscribers for your support, and I hope to get to know more of you very soon. For more indie game reviews and countdowns, check out the videos on your screen now, and I'll see you on the other side.